So yeah, I'm a little late this year with my halfway top 10 list. Something personal happened at the beginning of July, and then Deadpool and Wolverine mania hit. Then Comic-Con, Comic-Con at the same time. Then D23. It's been an exciting time. Not just, with those fan events, but also at the multiplex. In fact, I'm glad that I delayed my halfway lists by about a month or so, because I think 2024 is only just now starting to really cook. And my list is a lot better now that a couple of more movies have come out. All right, so join me as I share my top 10 movies of 2024 so far. And as always, I'm excited to hear your own thoughts and lists down below. Remember, this is my list. Sometimes some of you have a problem with that. And of course, I'm excited to see the conversation that it sparks. All right, so number 10, Horizon. I liked it, and I know other people who liked it as well. I saw some of you in my review who commented that you liked it, and it gives me joy to see people discovering this movie, which I think is, I wouldn't say a fantastic movie, but it's real solid. Put that on the poster. Oh, it's real solid. Kevin Costner tried real hard. I think part 2 is going to be incredible, by the way, if we ever get to see it. But, also I'm a fan of Westerns and Americana. And on that note, due to our current toxic political situation, a lot of people and companies have shied away from viewing or telling patriotic stories. Heck, this year, Disney Plus didn't even spotlight their scant 4th of July content, as they have in the past. I was disappointed. Where's my Johnny Tremaine? Where's my Ben and Me? Although even the copies they have are not the best. I was really surprised by that. Now that Disney didn't, I don't think any of the services, I guess that's where everybody's watching Independence Day every year, besides the fact it's a fabulous film, but not a lot of people ran 4th of July lists this year. And there was even a really long weekend for it. It was weird. All right, now, of course, these days, we don't want to look at America's past through rose-colored glasses. We can take it. We can take it. Our history makes us stronger as long as we learn from it, right? And Horizon is a very modern Western in that regard. I don't think it gets enough credit for that. I mean, I think the first trailer was misleading. It made it seem like it was not that way, when in fact it is. It's a clear and complex picture of an expanding America, not whitewashed, and fascinatingly, there are similarities to many of the things that we find ourselves dealing with today. The more things change, the more they stay the same. It's a famous saying for a reason. I also appreciate Kevin Costner's experiment in trying to bring streaming to the multiplex. Like, you like streaming? That doesn't mean the theater has to die, or does it? Because this isn't working out so well. Well, we'll see. Kevin Costner's not done cooking yet. Maybe everybody's just late to dinner. But the detail and scope, the 10 plus hours of storytelling allows, yet still enjoying the big screen and the camaraderie of an audience. I saw a lot of you are going to witness part 1 on a small screen, but I saw it in the press screening on a big screen, and it was really fun. It was great. And again, that preview at the end of part 1 for part 2, oh, it looks so good. Now, part 1, it didn't exactly light Hollywood on fire, but the film is doing solid, if not maybe even kind of good on digital, and it's going to hit Max this Friday. You don't even have to pay extra for it on Friday. So please give it a whirl, because I would hope that they're filming part 3. I don't know if he's going to get to 4 parts, but I hope he can get to at least let me see part 2. Part 2, again, looks so good, and it's already been filmed. They're showing it at the Venice Film Festival. Let me see it. And I hope I get to see it on a big screen. All right, number 9, A Quiet Place 2. This is also, these movies aren't going to be on my top 10 list by the end of the year, but now is their chance to shine. This is a solid film, but what I think really makes it stand out is writer-director Michael Sarnowski's twist on the final girl. Sam is terminally ill. That's a fascinating choice. And Lupita Nyong'o's incredible performance in that role. What an actress. In fact, across the board, Sarnowski pulls this horror film into the 21st century, from a final girl of color to what was later revealed to be an LGBTQ male lead, and a very modern look at a sense of community. But at the same time, retaining the common ground that still connects us all, including Sam's quest for one last slice of pizza. Who doesn't love a good slice of pizza? And her beloved cat, a nice nod to the original Alien. But also, it's very fun to see an alien invasion kind of through the eyes of a pet. I thought that was really very clever and very well executed, and another thing that made the film unique. Oh, and cats, man, they're a different breed. Also, this franchise continues to, and also they're very quiet, so it's a perfect pet for this franchise. And on that note, this franchise continues to come up with very clever ways not to make a sound or to hide sound or to use sound to your advantage. Some really great moments throughout the film. And the fact that they continue, this is their third film already in this space. And the fact they continue to be able to make it fresh is really commendable. All right, number 8, Bad Boys 4. I didn't expect this film to go as hard as it does. Usually, the fourth film in a franchise rests on its laurels. It knows what you expect, what you like about it, and it just delivers that. But this fourth entry, oh no. This fourth entry puts the pedal to the metal, including incredible cutting-edge visuals thanks to Steadicams and drones. I actually kind of like drone shots in movies. Another great movie that has incredible drone shots is Ambulance by Michael Bay. I know. You get through the first 15 to 20 minutes of that movie, you will be greatly rewarded. This movie's good all the way through, though. And one of the Steadicam shots is operated by Will Smith himself. That was incredible. Also, amazing cinematography of the city of Miami. Kudos to filmmakers Adil and Bilal proving themselves after the Ms. Marvel and Batgirl setbacks. Low ratings and cancellation, of course, of Batgirl. And a surprisingly moving B storyline for Marcus. Yes, Bad Boys 4 is smart. It knows that Will Smith is working his way back from a scandal. So in this entry, Martin Lawrence steps up and does most of the heavy lifting, not just comedically, but also dramatically. I was like, what's with the super serious plot in this movie? It works. It works very well. It makes the movie seem like there's something there and fresh and like it's just really strong. And also that allows Smith to present himself as not only a comedic foil, but also a supportive best friend with the dramatic stuff. So Lawrence brings the party, and then Smith, in doing a great job supporting that, does indeed begin to work his way back. The success of this film at the box office was crucial for Will Smith, his comeback. I know some of you feel he doesn't have to make a comeback, but I think that Will Smith wants to get everybody on the same page, and I think this film did a lot to do that. Smith and Lawrence, still one of the best duos in Hollywood, on screen and off. And isn't that refreshing, considering with like Fast and Furious, they're always fighting behind the scenes over there. So it's nice to have a franchise where everybody gets along. And I think you can see that on screen. Bad Boys 4 gives you everything. They do give you everything you want from this franchise, but also so much more. It's not resting on its laurels. It's leaning forward. And Bad Boys 4 also proves that there's still, the 90s action formula is still pretty potent. Don't throw that away, Hollywood. It still works. And in the same regard, number 7, Young Woman in the Sea, to me is also an old school movie, but this time more reminiscent of the films of the 1940s. I know some people don't like classic cinema, but discovering even the 70s, that might be the 70s, and I think I'm not a big fan of silent film. What's your favorite classic decade of cinema? But to me, particularly the 40s and 50s. And then also, I guess, it's weird that some people consider like the 80s now classic film. I'm like, what is Ferris Bueller doing in the classic section? And they're like, it's a classic now. And I'm like, I think they need to create 2 different classic sections because it's just overcrowding the classic section. But do yourself a favor, check out some great movies from the 40s and 50s. They're just really incredible films. Even some of the films in the 30s, but really, yeah, 40s and 50s. All right, so Young Woman in the Sea is not only similar to those films, but also echoes the best sports stories and also a sense of patriotism. Yet also, just like Horizon, not shying away from the way things really were. And also like Horizon, even more so, you can see things again have not changed really. Like the argument over women's sports, apparently we've been having it for over 100 years. Oh my God. And also, it's shocking that while the legacies of many male athletes have withstood the test of time, Trudy Ederles has not, despite the fact that she was one of the most celebrated athletes, male or female, of her era. That was incredible to discover that she had been lost to time when you see what a superstar she was. Young Woman in the Sea also has a strong cozy factor, which makes it very Disney. And it highlights, or any cozy, a lot of films can be cozy, but Disney, that's their specialty. But it also highlights Ederle's support system, from her family to her coach, but particularly her family. And in that regard, calls to mind one of the greatest sports films ever made, National Velvet. Watch National Velvet. It's such a good movie. Screenwriter Jeff Nathanson wrote this film so that there would be more inspiring stories out there for his own daughters. And he succeeded. It is a fantastic, I would hope, inspiring film to all. Too bad Disney buried it and has hardly given it any promotion. But it is available right now on Disney+. All right, number 6, Fly Me to the Moon. I love this movie so much. And to think when the trailer came out talking about faking the moon landing, I was like, what are you doing? I felt the film would be wildly irresponsible. But it turns out it's not. It's in fact a movie about being responsible. And that's intentional. It starts out being wildly responsible to prove how important it is to be responsible. It actually really makes sense. It's a hard movie to advertise, but it's so good. This is also a bit of a throwback film. That's why you got to know your film history so you can learn from it and build on it, especially if you're making movies or you want to discuss them. But anyway, it joins the ranks of the best movies about the space race, and it's also a surprisingly good screwball romantic comedy with Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum in two of the best roles of their careers, particularly for Scarlett Johansson. She's like a female Don Draper here who excels at bending the rules until she starts working at NASA and meets a man who is all about playing by the rules. Oh, I love it. It's so clever. They both learn a lot from each other as they collide head-on and the sparks fly. Who'd have thought, by the way, that Channing Tatum would be a believable NASA launch director? But he actually is. It's so funny. If you just said that, you'd be like, that's hilarious. Who do you really want to cast? But he pulls it off. Jim Rash, Ray Romano, and Woody Harrelson add a lot of pizzazz in supporting roles, and it's just a really strong film across the board. I mean, look at the audience scores. It deserves those audience scores. It's a shame that it wasn't better advertised for theaters. All right, so those are some of my personal favorites for 2024 that at this early stage of the year, a little over halfway through, can make it onto, as I said, a top 10 list. But now we're getting to the real standouts of the year. The type of movie that most people went crazy over that I think really have a shot at making their mark in the grand scope of cinema history and fandom. Oh, exciting! And also, can any of the remaining movies of the year possibly break through this blockade? I'll be curious to hear your thoughts because we still have some bangers to go. They could be epic failures, though. It's going to be fun. All right, so number 5, Inside Out 2. Sure, it's the most successful film of the year so far, but it's also one of the best and a much-needed return to form for Pixar. Oh, it's so good! When Bob Iger said they were going back to Sequel City, he's like, get in the car, everybody at Disney. We're driving back to Sequel City. We were all like, no, turn the car around. But it's pretty nice here, I gotta say. Inside Out 2 is actually, it's a sequel, but Inside Out 2 is actually directed by Kelsey Mann, his first directing gig at Pixar. So it's cool to see a new generation of talent so successfully take the baton. While the first Inside Out taught us there are no bad emotions, they all serve their purpose, I hated it. I'm not a big fan of emotions, but I really related to anxiety, and I think that a lot of people do. I think Inside Out 2 really offers a visceral connection with this character. Incredibly well voiced by Maya Hawke and designed and animated by Pixar. We all have this adorable little monster inside of us. So cute. Who's very well intentioned, but sometimes can spin out of control. The way this movie visually depicts a panic attack it's incredible. It's just really incredible. It's a work of art. It's really strong. Riley's more complex emotions, I think, make the sequel more relatable and a lot funnier. I think it was really strong. I loved it. This is quite simply one of Pixar's best films that they've ever made. And it reminds us of the kind of storytelling that got them on the map in the first place, and that they have, kind of lost their way a little bit. But I'm glad they are finding their way back. All right, number 4, Challengers. What? Above Inside Out 2? Well, that's because I respect bold swings, and this is the boldest swing of all. Director Luca Guadagnino, writer Justin Koritsky, who's married to Celine Song, who did Past Lives last year, And then also producer Zendaya have crafted a bold and incredibly modern film. In fact, I have yet to see a filmmaker like Guadagnino who can tap into the modern social media-driven zeitgeist of today's younger generations. This guy just gets it, man. And have you ever seen tennis portrayed in such a thrilling way? From the inventive cinematography, is that a tennis ball POV? I loved it. Also, they filmed on glass so you could see the ball bounce. Oh, it was just so great. To Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's electrifying score. Are we in the club or on the tennis court? Both. Oh, it was great. Zendaya, I was tapping my feet during that movie. I was having such a good time. Zendaya shines and anchors the film with her considerable star power. Who else could play Tashi Duncan? But I think the movie gets its real energy from up-and-comers Mike Faist and Josh O'Connor. Their rivalry and attraction to each other, I think, makes Challengers a sexy thriller. And arguably the first mainstream movie about a threesome. You're like, I understand you crazy threesome. Good luck to you. I hope you're happy. All right, number 3, Alien Romulus. We'll see how the box office shakes out, but from a creative fan perspective, well, not all fans. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I think this is a fantastic entry for the franchise. Now, as I just said, some fans seem to absolutely hate it. But I think most fans, I would say it's most, we feel it's the best Alien movie since Aliens in 1986. I got into such an Alien happy space watching this movie. I saw it twice in theaters already. And then it made me on Hulu. I don't like to watch Hulu content on Disney Plus because I don't think it fits I'm paying for both anyway. That's the only way you can get them combined right now. So I don't feel like the framing. How do you feel? Like when I'm on Disney Plus, it feels weird to turn on like a Hulu type style show. So I just still head over to the Hulu interface. But I watched both Prometheus again and Alien Covenant. And Prometheus held up better than I remember. Covenant was still just too disturbing. I was like, this is really disturbing. But I had a good time. It kept me in the alien world a little bit longer. I just, why didn't you watch Alien and Aliens? I just recently watched those. I hadn't seen Prometheus and Alien Covenant since they'd been released. Isn't it fun to rediscover a movie that, is still relatively recent? Even if you don't love the movie itself, it's fun. All right, so Fede Alvarez took the old school horror elements of the earlier movies with their gritty working class protagonists and mixed it with the more complex look at synthetics that the prequels gave us. All while still leaning hardcore into the body horror elements that have been a hallmark of the franchise and that are a perfect job for Fede Alvarez because he's proven that's his specialty with a lot of his previous work. Alvarez does a great job capturing the feel of Ridley Scott's earlier Alien films, but also layers in modern storytelling methods from the Alien Isolation video game. I've been reading some of your tweets about this game. Apparently it has an AI interface that allows the xenomorph to learn how you're playing the game so it can better beat you. I'm not a gamer, but I was tempted to try and play this game. But anyway, Alvarez has confirmed he was inspired by the 2014 video game, and eagle-eyed fans instantly picked up on it as well. Many of you had written me about it. And I'm like, why didn't nobody make a big deal about this game when it came out? I'm sure the developers are like, now you fans. All right, and while the filmmaking is superb across the board, there is no Alien Romulus without David Johnson's Andy. A brilliant, nuanced performance that instantly has made him a fan favorite and makes the film truly special. It's not a perfect film, but what a ride! Woo! There are many sequences that are just bangers and have an incredible rewatchability factor in spades. The second time when I go see a movie again with a group of people, I'll often be like, I've already seen this. If you want me to go get something for you or something, I'll go do it. Because, oftentimes I'm convincing people to go see the movie because they didn't want to. And I'm like, oh, it was so good. Let's go. And they're like, all right. And I'm like, I'm going to make sure you have the best time possible. But with this movie, I was like, I got to hurry back. I don't want to miss the sequence. And I would be back like, oh yeah, I'm still here. I can still get to see it. So this film is definitely like that. Just like the way the music and the camera movement all comes together. It's just really good. And too bad we have to convince casuals and our friends to go and see it. Why do we have to beg people to see an Alien movie? Again, I blame the advertising because it's really an extraordinarily well-made film. All right, number 2, runner-up. Who is it? Deadpool and Wolverine. Not number 1. I know. It almost was number 1, but I had to think very hard and make sure that Regency bias didn't sway me. And I adore Deadpool and Wolverine. It's number 2 for Pete's sakes. But you'll see that I think there's one other film this year, and I'm sure you can guess what it is. I'll be curious to see how you guys handle like the 1 and 2 spots in particular, 1, 2, and 3. But you'll see there's another film that I think just is a scooch better. All right, so it's easy to write off Deadpool and Wolverine as just fan service, and some people have. But what amazing fan service! I mean, it's not easy to get fan service right. Just ask a large portion of Hollywood these days. Today, fans so often do not get what we want. So to get exactly what we wanted is pretty freaking incredible. Ryan Reynolds dialed into the fan psyche hardcore, taking its pulse in a way that few filmmakers can these days or bother to. That's an important part. A lot of filmmakers are like, oh, I will make this something that I like. And you're like, dude, if you don't like it, don't make this movie. And so I think that this was really a proof of that. You can feel the love for the source material and the fandom radiating off of this movie. And it's a brilliant idea to make Deadpool himself a fan so I think you can really line up with him. Not just his love for stuff, but his frustrations. Having him call out some of Hollywood's recent bad practices was, talk about cathartic. It was fantastic. But Deadpool and Wolverine is just pure joy in a space that's become pretty toxic. I really liked that about it. I hope it's a palate cleanser, but it seems that the MCU is going to keep barreling ahead in the direction it was headed anyway. So it's more just a break instead of a palate cleanser. But on top of all that, you have to admire the talent on display here, particularly from Mr. Hugh Jackman. Now in his 24th year of playing Wolverine, and incredibly, it seems like he's just getting started. He's so jacked up and jammed. He's jacked up for this, but he's also jammed and ready to go. He's hyped up. Deadpool and Wolverine is a celebration of the character of Wolverine, bringing the X-Men into the MCU full throttle and mind-bogglingly comics accurate. I mean, like more comics accurate than a lot of the recent MCU content. And that's how the MCU content first made a name for itself. I mean, the Wolverine montage at the beginning of this film is like a fan fever dream. It's incredible. And all the new material seems to have ignited even more passion in Jackman, who handles both not just the comedic but the dramatic elements with the utmost seriousness. The expressions on his face alone, particularly in the fight in the Honda with Deadpool, I mean, it's just amazing. Again, it's a joy to see these two actors, Reynolds and Jackman, have such love and respect for the things that we love and respect. That's just great. And unlike other recent multiverse adventures, Deadpool and Wolverine delivers on the cameos. It might not be the ones that you were expecting or wanted, like the OG X-Men, but these ended up being the perfect cameos for the film itself, adding to rather than distracting from the film. This is how you make a comic book movie. I mean, maybe you don't have to follow it to the letter, but there's a lot of important lessons here, and we'll see if Hollywood takes note. All right, finally, the best film of 2024 so far is Dune Part 2. And it came out early in the year and so far is still holding that position. It could go all the way. It could go all the way. Dune Part 1 walked so that Part 2 could run. Yes, with all the pieces in position, Denis Villeneuve was able to add the thrilling action that was so desperately needed to the first film. Like the first film was like Succession, and the second film was like Game of Thrones when it's good. So good. It's similar to the glow up from Batman Begins to The Dark Knight. However, while Christopher Nolan has the cold aesthetics of an engineer or an architect, I think Villeneuve has the flourish of an artist. And that's why his movie, even though it's a blockbuster, has the soul of an artist. It's beautiful. The film also speaks to the cult of personality that we've seen throughout history, both good and bad, and how the crowd can be easily and intentionally manipulated, and sometimes wants to be manipulated. Really, really brilliant stuff. Also, in a time when a lot of young men feel under fire, I feel Dune Part 2 taps not just into the hero's journey, but also the camaraderie among... Why don't more women get to have the hero's journey? It's a pet peeve of mine. All right, so anyway... But also, I don't know if that storytelling appeals to women as much, but maybe just because they don't see women going through it. That's an interesting question. I always am very intrigued by the hero's journey. I'm like, who doesn't want to find out they have superpowers and are special? All right, so anyway. But also the camaraderie amongst their peers that young men have sought out throughout history, for all of history. Paul Atreides leads, but he also respects those who support him, at least for now. Apparently things go real south with this story. But yes, in Dune Part 2, they follow such famous stories such as Lawrence of Arabia, Dances with Wolves, Last of the Mohicans, where a favorite son of the colonizers joins the native people to fight back. Dune Part 2 draws heavily on Middle Eastern culture, and it's a big moment when Paul, at the end of the film, says they'll lead their enemies to paradise. Add to that incredible artistic flourishes, as I said, like the depiction of the Harkonnens, wowza, as well as some impressive world building as we learn the ways of the Fremen, including those really cool sandworm sequences. I was like, oh, move over! I want to ride a sandworm. You can ride them like a water ski jet or whatever, or apparently like also a bus. It was interesting. Sure, Dune calls to mind Star Wars, which is based on Dune, but Villeneuve, especially with this sequel, manages to make it still resonate as its own thing. And a new IP has been born. That doesn't happen every day in Hollywood. That's why they got to keep going back and finding old ones. But to see the birth of a new IP, some of you are like, Dune's been around for decades, Grace, but not to the general public. To see the birth of a new mainstream IP is really cool. All right, so that's my top 10 movies of 2024 so far. Again, I'm eager to hear your own lists as well as your thoughts about mine down below. And which movies you feel have a shot to break onto the top 10 list by the end of the year. On that note, be sure to check out my very early look at the Oscars for 2025, where I spotlight some of the films that are contenders, big and small, and many of them have yet to be released. They're going to come out in the next few months, so you'll get an idea of what movies to look out for. All right, again, share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.